In 2016, the Long Island Railroad will usher in a new era of train travel, its first expansion in well over 100 years, as it brings customers for the very first time into Grand Central Terminal, shortening the commutes of so many hard-working Queens and Long Island residents by as much as 40 minutes each day. Upon the completion of East Side Access, the LIRR plans to provide frequent AM and PM rush hour service to both Penn Station and Grand Central for all Port Washington branch customers. But to make it happen for the 43,000 or so people who use the Port Washington branch each day, infrastructure improvements are required. Specifically, the LIRR is evaluating the extension of the existing Great Neck Pocket Track to accommodate one additional 12-car train. This improvement would allow the railroad the flexibility to increase service without gumming up the works along the entire branch. We're also studying the replacement of a noisy 100-year-old bridge and drainage improvements along the tracks, but I'll get to that in just a bit. So this idea to extend the existing track to fit only one additional train? Well, why is it even necessary, you may ask? Well, the successful buildup of AM and PM peak service levels to both Penn Station and Grand Central depends on the ability to turn more trains along the branch. Today, for example, Great Neck Station is served by 15 morning peak trains, 5 of which originate from the existing pocket track east of the station. Without it, those 5 trains would be wiped from the schedule.
You wouldn't be able to accommodate the trains that normally turn in the Great Neck Pocket. There would be nowhere to put them. You'd either have to run the trains all the way to Port Washington, or you'd have to reduce the amount of service. The Port Washington branch has single track between Great Neck and Port Washington, and that severely constrains the amount of trains that we can operate between the Great Neck and Port Washington. The Great Neck Pocket allows us to not only turn trains in Great Neck for customers Great Neck West, but it also allows us to operate trains express through to Port Washington, making limited stops.
Now, the LIRR must add a great number of trains to accompany the introduction of service to Grand Central, and in order to run more rush hour trains for Port Washington commuters, the railroad must be able to turn more trains along the branch. Without new infrastructure, more trains would have to travel the single track corridor from Great Neck to Port Washington before turning around and heading west again. But with the proposed extension, customers throughout the branch will see an immediate benefit, the ability to add more trains even before the completion of East Side Access. Citi Field customers will reap the benefits too, through increased flexibility and availability of service once Met games, concerts, U.S. Open matches, and the like let out. And of course, more trains means more available seats. The Port Washington branch stands to receive robust East Side Access service if, and only if, a solution for turning trains is built. Simply splitting the current level of AM peak service between Penn and Grand Central will result in a net decrease in service to Penn Station and inadequate service to both terminals. Keep in mind that pocket tracks are turning tracks and would only be used to turn trains and not for overnight train storage, train maintenance, or extended idling. Another key element in this project is the replacement of the 114-year-old Colonial Road Bridge. For years, residents in the village of Thomaston have had to endure all that metal-to-metal clanging whenever cars pass over this antiquated and expensive-to-maintain structure whose best days are long behind it. After all, it was built in 1897 before cars were widely used.
The existing bridge is an open-deck roadway, which is quite noisy. Our proposal will be a closed-deck asphalt topping bridge, which will decrease the noise pollution in the area and improve the surrounding environment for the community. Our plan when we replace this bridge is replace it to the latest design standards of DOT, which includes ADA-compliant sidewalks, wider traffic lanes, better site improvement. The bridge right now is rated for a maximum of 3 gross tons. That is the lowest rating that DOT allows. Originally, the bridge was designed for 8-ton capacity, but as you can see, because of the age of the bridge and the deterioration, they've had to lower that to ensure the safety of the riders and the railroad.
Take a look at what a good rain does to the area underneath the bridge. It isn't just noisy, it leaks like a sieve too. With its open metal grating, it basically is a sieve, and all this water is bad for the infrastructure. It's bad for train traffic through the area and on-time performance, especially when it renders tracks impassable and nearby switches inoperable.
Drainage at the Colonial Road Bridge is inadequate. Our plan is to improve the drainage with the new drainage system that addresses not just the water coming off of Colonial Road, but the water traversing down from the station area and along the embankment along the right-of-way there.
The pocket track extension under consideration would run under the new Colonial Road Bridge. And though all of the work would take place entirely within the railroad's existing right-of-way, we still want to hear from you. Feedback, negative, positive, and all things in between, is crucial in allowing this project to get off the ground. We're conducting an environmental review of the proposed infrastructure improvements at Colonial Road in compliance with NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act.
We are committed to a major vegetation plan along the pocket track exterior to act as a buffer to nearby homes.
Better seat choice and more service for stations Great Neck and West, in addition to greater levels of express service along the entire Port Washington branch. Throw in a spiffy new and much quieter Colonial Road Bridge, better drainage underneath it, and the creation of local construction jobs. And there's a whole lot to love about this project, and a whole lot at stake.